what your boss says versus what they really mean. It is interesting how in the corporate corridors, rarely do you find managers or bosses sharing things directly. More so, those things which are kind of borderline having repercussions to your career. That is why it is important for you to understand the jargon of bosses so that when they throw around some phrases or they address you in a given way, you know what they mean. I'm going to package for you 10 common phrases which bosses use. They say and the meaning is something very different, and you need to understand the meaning for you to be able to maneuver and have good working relationship with your boss. You are all much welcomed. My name is Afagzat Sifunam. Having said that, the very first common phrase is, can you take ownership of this? When your boss tells you, can you take ownership of this? They're not really requesting you to own a given work stream. They are basically telling you, this is your problem going forth. Figure a solution. Don't come to me with half-baked solutions. I want the full solution. That is what that phrase basically means. When your boss tells you, can you take ownership of this? Just know they're transferring a problem to you. So you better figure out how to own it and come up with a solution. Okay? And then the second phrase is, let's circle back on this. I'm pretty sure you've heard this phrase multiple times. Let's circle back on this. That basically means this is not a priority right now. That's what your boss means. This is not a priority right now. You could go to them with brilliant ideas. You could go to them saying something. When they tell you, let's circle back on this, it means from their analysis, it is not a priority at that particular point in time. And then the third common phrase is, we need to move faster. That phrase is a catchphrase because your boss is using a plural all-inclusive. We need to move faster. But in reality, what they mean is you are moving slowly or you are lagging behind on delivering. That's what they mean. They could use a polite all-inclusive phrase of we, but they are basically addressing you, telling you you are slow or you need to deliver much faster because they are not seeing traction, okay? And then a fourth common phrase which also need to have in mind is when your boss tells you, that is good, let's refine it, okay? Or this is good, can you refine it further? That's also a polite way of them telling you that what you've given them or what you've done is not good enough. Yes, they use the phrase, this is good, let's refine it, or this is good, can you refine it further? But in reality, they're telling you what you have done is not good enough. So basically it means you need to go back, do a particular piece of work again to ensure it meets the standard which was explained to you or the standard which you typically work at on a regular basis, okay? And then a fifth phrase which bosses out there like using is, I'll review and get back to you. When your boss tells you, I'll review and get back to you, it basically means that is not urgent to them, okay? Simple as that. That's not urgent to them. Or basically they're telling you in other words, they have other things they're handling, their plate is full, yours is not a priority. So when they tell you, I'll review and get back to you, it is what it is. Not urgent to them, okay? And then a sixth phrase which bosses out there use and also need to be keen what it means is, we are going through some changes. That phrase is a catchphrase too. When your boss tells you, we are going through some changes, they are basically telling you, or what they mean is, be alert, okay? Be alert, have your ears on the ground, open your eyes, because something big is shifting, right? So you better do that, because the shift could be related to you, or even yet could be related to your department or something very strategic in the company. So be alert when your boss tells you we are going through some changes. And then a seventh phrase, which when your boss says is also quite dangerous, is let's discuss this offline. When your boss says let's discuss this offline, typically that phrase is used maybe in the context of meetings where there's a number of people, whether it's internal stakeholders or a mix of internal and external stakeholders. When they tell you let's discuss this offline, what it basically means is don't challenge me or don't challenge this in public. That is a cue for you to shut up. Cut it. Whatever ideology you are pushing, whatever you are challenging, that's a polite way of your boss telling you, stop it, don't ask questions, okay? So when they tell you, let's discuss this offline, understand what it means. Don't challenge them in public, or don't challenge whatever idea in public, okay? And then, an eighth phrase, which bosses out there also like using, is we need to be more aligned. That is also a catchphrase, because by the time your boss tells you you need to be more aligned, they are politely telling you that you are not aligned with leadership. You are not aligned with the vision of decision makers in your company or in a given space, which of course, as you understand, has quite an implication. More so if this phrase is used multiple times. We need to be more aligned. If you don't align, it basically means something could stem from that, because basically you are not aligned with what the leadership is thinking. And then a ninth phrase, which bosses out there like using, is this is a stretch opportunity. Yes, I'm pretty sure you've heard maybe on one or two occasions out there, your boss, your manager saying, this is a stretch opportunity for you. That phrase also is a catchphrase, because if you don't read between the lines, you could find yourself becoming extremely important at work, because that basically means we are going to give you more work at the same pay. That's why the phrase they use is stretch opportunity. Basically, we're going to stretch your capacity or stretch what you're doing, basically your workload, but then again, we are not going to discuss your payment. So think about it. If you need, for example, to push back or use that particular work, additional work or increased workload as a basis of negotiating salary, you think about it and see how to maneuver, okay? And then the 10th phrase, which bosses out there also like using, is we will keep you in mind. And I'm smiling because chances are, if you've worked in the corporate world for over 5 years, your boss or your manager at a particular point in time did tell you this. We will keep you in mind. That phrase basically means don't expect anything anytime soon. In other words, whatever you're trying to vouch for or push for, forget it in the meantime. That's why they tell you we will keep you in mind. So don't have your hopes high because your boss told you we'll keep you in mind. It basically means shelve whatever ambition you have, because you won't expect anything stemming from whatever you'll have discussed anytime soon. Guys, those are 10 most common phrases which are used by managers or bosses out there. And typically what they say has a different meaning. You understanding the meaning is going to really assist you maneuver the corporate dynamics. Is there another phrase out there which I've forgotten? Comment down below in the comment section. Share with us. Let's continue discussing. Cheers, guys, and speak next time.